Yo, what is happening, everybody? I don't even know how to start this video, but as you've probably guessed, with there being no updates on the Chat Down Instagram or the YouTube channel, the Chat Down has ended. This is something that I decided I wanted to quit. I didn't want to do the Chat Down podcast anymore, and it really bottles down to 4 key points to why I didn't want to do it anymore. And obviously I'm going to go through that with you now, let you know where my thinking was with that, and just we'll go from there. So first thing with time, obviously I work 60 to 70 hours a week in my normal job, which made it difficult for me to have time anyway. And then the time that I did have was split between the SMK TV channel and the Chat Down. Now, the second point to that was effort. So I felt like I was putting way too much effort into the podcast, but obviously my co-host Fraser, he wasn't. Now, I don't blame him for this. This is not something that, it's not his fault. It was my decision. But it wasn't his niche. He's never done this type of thing before. So for me to ask him that I need him to get podcasts ready, to think about questions, to find guests, all that stuff, you know, I can't expect him to just do that straight away. But the effort was just solely based on me doing everything and then Connor doing the editing. And with me having my own SMK TV channel, which is going to have its own podcast, I couldn't justify to myself why I would put in so much effort in to make one product work when I could be putting it into the products that I truly believe in. I believe SMK TV is going to be good. I think it's going to do well, it's going to do numbers, and I'm truly enjoying making it. Obviously you guys see the stuff pumping out from there. As well as that, it's focus. I couldn't focus on it anymore, you know, because since it started, it's always been me that's done the networking, it's always been me that's got the guests, it's always been me that's planned the episode. I'm the one that's sunk loads of money into all these different pieces of equipment in order to make the podcast better. And I kind of lost that. So as we were going on and we got to a certain point, we took the first break, snapped his viewership in half. We took the second break, as viewership might as well have disappeared. And I just lost complete focus for it. I couldn't put my mind to it anymore. My own fault, because I was thinking a lot about what I could be doing for the SMK TV channel, which obviously I'm going to, that's my branded channel, that's me, that's what I want to focus on, that's what I want to push forward, and that's where I really believe that I'm going to shine and do my best type of content. And then last of all is loss of enjoyment. I stopped enjoying it. When we first started, obviously, we had guests constantly. We always had different people coming into the podcast and talking to us, but it's got harder and harder to do that. And partly because the way we run the system was an online-based thing. I think that'd be easier for people to join, but I don't know. Just that we had more people drop out than if, say, you were to meet someone somewhere and go for a podcast. To record a podcast, and I got so bored of it. So obviously, part them 4 key points are the main reason, but I'd say as well as that is the SMK TV stuff is more what I want to do on YouTube. It's more the content I want to release, you know. So it's more me, and if I'm gonna put all my efforts into something and put every bit of resources I've got into something, I want it to be something that I truly believe in, and I just lost the belief in the Chat Down, and I think that is due to obviously me taking too many breaks and my SMK TV stuff I'm playing along with. That's kind of what does it mean for the channel? I mean, it's never going to disappear. The Chat Down podcast will always be on YouTube. It will always be there, because who knows? In the future, me and Fraser might sit together and think, let's do this again, let's get running again, and it's there to do that. Obviously, there's no plans for that at the moment. It's not in my plans. I haven't got plans for it to come back or continue. But you never know. You never say never. I think it's just a move for that. forward to. But you know, I still want him to be involved with SMK TV as much as he will be, because to me, it doesn't matter whether it's on the Chat Down podcast, whether it's on SMK TV, or whether it's just talking in the street. He's my best friend, and this decision is not going to change that. He'll always be my best friend, and I'll always love him for who he is, not for what he can do. So I'm hoping that, you know, after I've given him a bit of space and let him realise and understand my decision, that he can jump on board and do some SMK TV stuff for me. So I'd love him to come along to a podcast. I'd love him to come do that, which I'll get into in a sec. But yeah, I just hope that he doesn't let it bother him. And I really want him to start his own channel, and giving him this extra time once a fortnight, it'd be perfect for him to be able to do types of content, and I'd happily help him with all of it. So obviously this podcast is going. This doesn't mean that there isn't going to be a podcast anymore. The Chat Down podcast has been sliced, and SMK TV will be getting its own podcast. Now the difference between this is, so the SMK TV podcast can be when I want it to be. It doesn't have to be scheduled, because there's so much other content coming onto the channel. I can do the podcast as and when it pops up. I've got some really good opportunities coming in April. I think there's 4 people that I'll be going and doing podcasts with. So instead of it being very all online, just quick, there'll be me going to where they are, and it'll all be done in person. I've now got the equipment for that, so of course that's where we're going to go from there. I want Fraser to come along, of course I do. I still want him to be part of that team. I'd really love to still have him sat at the side of me when I do these podcasts. Obviously can't be there on all of them, but you know, especially there's 2 that I definitely want him there for. And even if he's just there in the background, it'd mean more to me than anything, because it's not about him being on the podcast for me, it's about him being with me and just being on the journey with me. I want him to experience some of the same things that I'm experiencing and have some of the opportunities that I'm having. So yeah, there will still be a podcast on SMK TV, which will be every so often, every couple of months I should think. But then obviously there's all sorts of other things to keep you guys entertained. And lastly, I want to say thank you to everybody that has been a guest on the podcast or has had anything to do with the podcast. I first want to thank Charlie, my brother, for giving us the name. You know, thank you so much for that. Your brain works sometimes. I want to thank Wiggo, one of my friends from down Essex, who started this whole journey off with me. He was the one that pushed me to start it in the first place, and for unforeseen circumstances he couldn't come on full time. I also want to thank Fraser for just being a brilliant co-host, and not just that, for being my best friend. Without you, mate, I'd have never continued doing it, and I have had some of my greatest memories through this podcast. This podcast is the reason why I am now doing SMK TV, and I'm trying to push it as hard as I can. I love you so much, Fraser, and I hope to God that this does not put any type of wedge in between us, and let's take on the fucking world no matter what we do. I also want to thank my girlfriend for dealing with me spending, to be honest. She's dealt with me buying things, selling things, just completely fucking going off the rails with money. And thank you for standing by me, believing in me, giving me the opportunity to get stuff that I need and not worry about other things. You're fantastic for what you've done. I love you. I want to say thank you to Sandra, because without Sandra I wouldn't have the main piece of kit that I needed, which is a laptop. Obviously, you know, I'm going to share this now because I'm not keeping it a secret anymore. She lent me the money in order to get the laptop, so without that I'd have never been able to do any of it. So thank you, Sandra, I love you to pieces for that. And then I'm just going to quickly go through the guests. Katie Wild, thank you so much for coming on. Then we've got my brother and sister, which was an unreleased episode, but still thank you for giving me the time. Keon Hill, Jinka, thank you so much for that first conversation that we ever had, where you helped me decide how to take things and move it forward, and for getting me the next few that I'm going to mention. Cassimo, thank you so much for coming on. You were an absolute blessing to talk to, and I can't wait until we get you on the SMK TV one, the same with Keon. And the Bad Witch Official, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Reese, or Rhythm Roo, thank you for coming on. And yeah, it's, you know, other guests that were supposed to come on but couldn't due to other circumstances. Thank you so much. You know, you gave us the time of day, you spoke to us. The sponsors that we had, thank you, although they didn't work out very well, but thank you still. And then most importantly, I need to thank Connor. Mate, without you, none of this would have been possible. You was the one that did all the editing from the beginning when I had a shitty little laptop and a rubbish camera and terrible microphone. You were the one that helped me source what I needed to get. And I thank you for that. I can never say enough words to you, mate. I will never be able to repay you in my lifetime for what you've done for me. And thank you to my kids for watching it. So, probably my only 2 viewers. But yeah, on that note, obviously, I'm sad to say that it's done. But I've made a little montage for you, so let's take a look at this together. And I'll see you in the future. Peace.
Hey everybody.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Welcome
to
the Chat Down.
Chat Down.
The Chat Down podcast.
People call me Castle.
Sharing that with your sons is so important for that reason.
And I love seeing people like you that are out there and you're actually breaking boundaries. And you're
Yeah.
We're not big, we're little fish in a big ass pond, bro.
You're on a podcast that's running off Discord and my camera doesn't even look right, so where are we going from here?
The thing is, you can't teach what you don't know.
You made my friend, my brother, feel like absolute shit for doing his job.
Our chemistry's got stronger together.
I've wasted this all.
Round, knowing everything you know now.
So from me and Fraser, obviously, love to you all. We have been the Chat Down and peace.